What's going on, guys? In this video, I want to share why you need to be sending email campaigns in addition to the automated email flows that you've got set up in your email marketing software. So one thing I keep seeing more and more lately from people who are reaching out to us to manage their email marketing is that they've got some flows set up. Either they did it themselves or they hired someone else in the past to set up some flows, but they're still not doing email marketing campaigns. And one of the pieces of feedback that I get from people is that they find the campaigns to be a little bit more intimidating. So when they sit down to create an email, they just don't know what to say in the email. So, and if that's you, I have lots of videos on my channel you can check out about how to come up with topics for email campaigns and writing copy for email campaigns and all of that. But another thing is that the flows a lot of times they seem more straightforward. For example, if you're doing a welcome series, then you're welcoming people to your business and you're introducing your brand and introducing your products. And so for a lot of business owners or the internal marketing team, this just comes very naturally to them to be able to create those kind of emails. And then same thing for doing something like an abandoned checkout email. It's pretty straightforward, and these emails tend to perform really well even if they don't have the best copy and design, because they're targeting people at critical points of the sales process, meaning that if you have a compelling offer in your pop-up that gets people into the welcome series, then it's easy to get sales from the welcome series, assuming that they like the offer, and they may not even pay attention too much to what you've said in there if they just really wanted that offer. And then the same thing with abandoned checkout or abandoned cart, something like that, where they're already so far along in the sales process, they just needed a little nudge to move them forward. And so someone can set up an abandoned checkout flow, and even if it's not the best abandoned checkout flow, it's still going to get some sales. And so they're going to see these sales coming in from their email marketing, and they might just be satisfied with that because they don't know how much more potential there is to tap into. But I want to make the case for why you should be sending email campaigns, even if you're just not sure how to get started. Again, I have a bunch of free resources on my channel here to help you do that, but I want to really show you why it's so important for you to be sending email campaigns. The first reason is something that I call the law of repetition. So this is a concept in psychology and in marketing that what you hear repeatedly, you eventually believe. So I'm old enough to remember a time when people who were famous were almost always famous for something they did. They were usually pro athletes, or they were movie stars that made awesome movies or TV shows or something like that. But in general, in the past, people were famous for something that we as a society considered important and we thought was valuable, and that's why people were famous. But then during my lifetime, you saw the rise of influencers, which started with Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian and people like that. And I'm not knocking that at all, because it is what it is. Really, I think Paris Hilton is a genius. She's really the one who kind of created this whole concept of being famous just for being famous, and really led to what now is just pretty normal in society, where we have famous influencers, and now people like influencers more than they like traditional celebrities in a lot of cases. So it's not really me saying if it's good or bad. It's more of, if this is happening, what can we learn from that? And the big thing that we can learn from that is that these people who have found a way to kind of become famous just for being famous, the main thing they're doing is they're always finding a way to just continue to show up in media. They're finding a way to continually get attention from media. Back then it was more about mainstream media. Now I would say it's actually, you could become more prominent just by, getting featured on the right YouTube channels, or being on the right podcasts, or having, the right influencers share a post of yours, or share a story of yours on Instagram, something like that, or even just showing up in people's algorithm. If you can just show up in enough people's algorithm and you find a way to get the algorithm to show your content, then that's enough. So the big thing here, though, is that you need to be consistent with your message. So if you're trying to have this repetitive message getting across, you need to be consistent with what that message is, because that's the thing you're trying to convince people example of. So taking this back to email marketing now and sending campaigns, that is the biggest thing that you're doing by showing up consistently, emailing people every week, maybe twice a week with your emails, is that you're not always trying to show up with a discount or something. You don't have to always do that to generate sales. It's more about pushing your marketing message. So, like whatever it is that your brand is all about, or however you add value to people's lives. So, again, if it's like a health product or something, you can talk about topics that are related to helping people lose fat and build muscle and get stronger and improve their flexibility, all of these kind of things. And over time, by continuing to talk about all of that stuff, they see you as a brand who not only is informed on all of these things and they see you as an expert in this space, but they also see you as a brand that cares about them getting results and them ultimately achieving what they want to, which is going to make them like your brand more, be more familiar with your brand. And whenever they're in the market to buy the types of products you sell, you're going to be one of the first ones that comes to mind for them. So a big part of sending campaigns is playing this long game of repeatedly showing up and repeatedly pushing the narrative that you want to communicate for your brand, for your customer. Now, the second thing here is that campaigns typically are going to generate a lot of activity on your site, which now gets people back into your sales process. So if you already have some flows set up and those flows are performing really well, by sending more campaigns, you're going to get more people back into those flows. Because if people aren't going to your site, if they're not taking actions that are going to trigger those flows, then they're not going to end up going into those flows as often. So yeah, new people who show up will continue going in those flows, but what about all these other people who are on your list who have been sitting there for a while, maybe haven't purchased in a while? By sending out campaigns to them, you get them back on your site, whether it's going to consume content or to look at specific products, whatever it is, just getting them back onto your site and getting them to kickstart some new activity, that's going to get them back into your flows. The other thing is, if you're running ads, this is also a lot of times going to get them back to seeing your ads more often. So by doing these campaigns, keeping them engaged on your site, you're not only getting them back into these flows, but you're also making sure that now they're seeing your advertising everywhere else they go online, which goes back to the law of repetition, where now it just seems like everywhere they go, there you are. And so that's how, again, how campaigns can play a critical role, not just with what you're doing directly with email marketing, but with your overall marketing goals. And then finally, the last reason here is more so as you need to understand what the potential is for email marketing. So for all the brands that I am managing their email marketing, the brands that are doing at least 1 to 5 million per year, almost every single one of them, the majority of their revenue from email marketing comes from campaigns, meaning they're getting way more revenue from their campaigns than they are from their flows. And they're getting a lot of revenue from their flows, but the thing is, there's just way more upside with the campaigns, because again, a lot of the flows are going to be triggered based on behavior, like actions they take on your site, or they're just going to be things that are based on, it could just be like a certain time period has to pass before they start getting enrolled in this flow. So you have less direct control of who gets those emails, but with campaigns, now you are in the driver's seat and you can choose when you send what email to who. So you can create different segments of people based on rules that you set. It could be based on their past purchase history. It could be based on their location, their gender, all kinds of things like this. And now you can send them emails that are crafted specifically for that particular segment. So now that message is going to resonate a lot more with them, and you can choose how frequently you're showing up in their inbox. And this long-term, sending more emails is going to lead to more revenue. Now, of course, you don't want to send every email to everyone on your list, and that's why I mentioned segmentation, and that's why that's important. But the game long-term to continue growing this is, as you're growing your business, as you're growing your email list, you want to, over time, increase the frequency of the campaigns you're sending, because by sending more campaigns, you're going to be able to generate more revenue from email marketing. So think of this as, if you're just starting out, this is more of a goal. If you're just an early startup business and you're not generating much revenue, it doesn't mean that sending emails every day is all of a sudden going to give you way more revenue. It's likely going to annoy people. So this is more of starting now and building the habit of showing up consistently, getting people to engage with your emails, figuring out what types of campaigns they like and don't like, so that over time you now have the ability to increase the amount of emails you're sending, because you've tested so many different angles and you've tested sending to so many different segments that you've continued to build on what's working while everything else was growing at the same time. You're now able to increase the frequency, and that's how you're going to tap into the upside of email marketing. So if you never get into that point to where you can send more email campaigns, you're never going to reach the full potential of the revenue that you can get from email marketing.